it's Elise here at Bowman Library with a whole new middle grade book spotlight. So for this week, we are exploring some of the titles that have been nominated for the Virginia Reader's Choice Middle Grade Award for the 2022-2023 year. So here's how this works. There's a committee, librarians, English teachers, and other individuals from all over the state. They read a ton of books and then they nominate 10. They put 10 on this list. But here's what's amazing about this award. They then take these 10 books, and you as the reader, you get to pick which one you think is the best one. So there's 10 nominated. We're gonna take a look at 6 here today. And then I encourage you to maybe try one of them, because here's what I love about this award, is it makes you, encourages you, however you wanna look at it, read things that maybe you normally wouldn't. And you might actually find maybe you do like one of them. You have no idea. So we have six of the 10 we're going to take a look at. So let's get started. Our first one is Free Lunch. In this memoir, Rex the author, he takes us back to when he was starting 6th grade in his small Texas town. Not only is he trying to navigate middle school life, from friendships falling apart, trying to figure out where lockers are, and then he really wants to play football with all of his friends, but there's some stuff going on that he can't. He's always reminded then about his home life. On top of all of this, when he goes to lunch and he has to say out loud every single day that he gets free lunch, and everyone just looks at him with this look on their face. His home life is a wreck. His mom and her boyfriend, they're unemployed. They're at home all the time. Everyone is verbally and physically abused. Rex is taking care of his baby brother. He just wants to be a 6th grade boy, but he can't just be that. Rex, though, starts to make some new friends, and he starts to realize through these friends and these relationships he starts to build that there's a light at the end of everything, and he doesn't have to feel shame just because he's poor, and he does not have to let that define him. That's not who he is as a person. This honest and sometimes brutal read is one that's completely eye-opening and relevant to so many people today, and one that every middle schooler and everyone older should read, as it's just incredibly eye-opening and it's heart-wrenching. This is Free Lunch. Night Owl from Dogfish. In this modern take on that classic movie Parent Trap, one day, Beth, she's sneaking in her father's email, she's reading stuff, even though she knows she's not supposed to be doing this. She reads something she's totally not expecting. Her father has fallen in love with another man who he met at a convention 3 months ago. They've been secretly dating this whole time. And the two of them are scheming to send Beth and this other man's 12-year-old daughter off to summer camp together. Well, they go on vacation, just the two of them. Now, Beth finds out about this. She doesn't even know what to think. She finds Avery, the other daughter's email address. She emails her, lets her know what's going on. Avery doesn't know how to respond to this. But yeah, they end up at camp together. They decide, at first they're going to ignore each other. They want nothing to do with each other. But then they have this realization that if they don't want their dads to be together, then they need to do something about it. And the two of them start to come up with this plan on how they're going to sabotage this relationship. As they start to do this, though, and they start to come up with these ideas and these plans, they start sharing more about themselves. And before they know it, they realize they have more in common with each other than what they first thought. And they actually start to become some pretty good friends. This is told through emails and letters, and you get a unique and humorous insight into their thoughts and feelings, and anyone can totally relate. Especially, we've all had that some person in our life that they're in some sort of relationship and you don't want to have that happen, or you have your reasons. Totally relate. This is Night Owl from Dogfish. King and the Dragonflies. So King's world has turned upside down when his older brother, by 3 years, unexpectedly passes away. No one in his family knows how to deal with this, and 3 months later, they are still trying to figure out their lives, their emotions, their grief. King, though, thinks his brother Khalid, he thinks he's returned as a dragonfly. And this dragonfly visits him every single night in his dreams, and it's there that they they talk, they share secrets, and Khalid gives him advice, including about what King is struggling with the most, that he is gay and he doesn't know how to come out to his family. King is also keeping secrets for others, including his best friend Sandy, who's the son of the sheriff. The sheriff is racist and he abuses Sandy. And when Sandy comes out to King decides it's going to be up to him to protect his best friend, and he hides him away from his father. That's the only thing he can think of. If his father can't find him, then nothing bad can happen to him. This realistic look at issues such as racism, to coming out and accepting who one is will make you think, and hopefully by the end it will make you have hope. This is King and the Dragonflies. When Stars Are Scattered. This graphic novel is based on a true story about a Somalian refugee named Omar Mohammed. Now, when the Civil War started in Somalia and her father was killed, Omar and his younger brother Hassan, they're separated from their mother, and they find themselves living in this refugee camp by themselves, and they end up being cared by this elderly woman named Fatuma. Now, this book follows the 6 years that they are at this camp. Hassan is nonverbal because of the trauma and everything that he's experienced and saw, and Omar wants to keep looking for their mother. And when Omar is chosen to go to a special school, he has to decide whether or not to go, because this special school, by him being accepted, it increases the chance that both he and his younger brother, that they're going to be sent out of Somalia. They're going to be sent either to Canada or the United States. But that would also mean that they would leave behind any hope of ever finding their mother and maybe never even seeing her ever again. You will find yourself possibly crying as you read this amazing graphic novel in which one choice can change everything. Again, based on a true story, this is When Stars Are Scattered. Ground Zero. So, typical Alan Grant style, amazing historical fiction, and then, yeah, this is told through 2 parallel stories, and it just works. So we have 2 parallel stories, one that takes place on September 11th, 2001 in New York City, and then there's another that is set on September 11th, 2019 in Afghanistan. Now, Brandon, who is out of school due to getting into a fight already, like school hasn't even been in for a week, he's suspended for fighting, and he finds himself in New York City at the Twin Towers on September 11th, 2001 with his dad. He's there when everything happens, he witnesses it firsthand, and he ends up running and fighting for his life. It is 18 years later that we meet Ramisha, who is in her village in Afghanistan, and her village and her family, they're just having a horrific time, and they've been basically decimated in so many ways between the Taliban and the U.S. military forces and all of the fighting that's been taking place over the many, many years. Now, these 2 stories will intersect in ways you will not see coming, and it brings to light not only the events of September 11th, 2001, but what happened in the months and years after. And it's not just the events that are explored, it's also that the emotional, the personal impacts as well on so many individuals all over the world, not just here in the United States. Again, in his typical style, Gratz does not shy away from these tough topics, these feelings, and you will not regret that he doesn't either, because that's what makes this story so powerful. This is Ground Zero. And our last one is It's the End of the World as I Know It. So Derek, also known as D, he's had a tough year of it, especially since his mother was killed in action while fighting in Iraq with the Air Force. He's become convinced that on September 21st, he's written tons of blogs, all this type of stuff. He's become convinced that on September 21st, which is only 19 days away from the start of our story, that there's going to be an underground volcano that's under Yellowstone National Park that's going to erupt. And the world as we know it is going to come to an end, and he has to get prepared. He's preparing their doomsday shack, he has medicine, he has hazmat suits, gas masks, food, water, you name it. Anything he thinks they might need in order to survive, he's preparing with it. Now, his father and the rest of his family kind of tolerates him because, again, it's been kind of a hard year, but they are changing as well, including probably one of the hardest things for Dee, the fact that his father is starting to date again, moving on from his mom. It's when he meets their new next door neighbor, Misty. And Misty's dealing with her own health issues, her own scares, and because of everything that she has experienced with her kidney stuff going on, she has a kind of a different outlook on life than Dee. Instead of Dee, who's trying to hide from everything, he wants to try to protect himself from this world that he's living in, Misty wants to explore and see everything, kind of the complete opposite. They soon start to kind of build this friendship in which it challenges them both to start to deal with their grief and their anxieties and their outlooks on life. How can they impact one another? But then when September 21st comes, the day that everything's gonna end, it starts in a way that no one could have expected or predicted. Part survivalist story, part coming of age, part exploring how to deal with trauma. This realistic read is one that's quirky, there's funny parts, but it's also really impactful. It's the end of the world as I know it. So these are just 6 of the 10 books that we have nominated for the Virginia Reader's Choice Middle School Award. So I encourage you to come out, read one of these, or we have posters up that show all the ones, so maybe if there's another one that interests you, then you can read as many of them as you want, as you can, and then you'll be able to vote for your favorite. And then we'll have to see which book gets the most votes in the state. I hope you tune back next week. We have a whole new middle grade book spotlight, and I hope you have an amazing week.